Actually, that little phone call that stopped me in my tracks when I was just describing the nuclear difficulty of the World Health Organization and the UN now considering nuclear weapons sales as being part of their logistics supply chain arrangement. Um, was interrupted by a very important call about following up from the ICC about this emergency injunction on this actually happening to us. I mean, I know that for everyone this has been a major struggle for agency the last few years, in terms of not being able to get any sort of a result. Doesn't matter who you are, how qualified you are, whether you're the leading expert in absolutely any part of it. You've been, what's that word? You've been regaled. Regaled. There is a good word for it. Relegated to to not someone who's actually sharing important information, but actually questioned 100%. Didn't used to always happen, although it has happened for a long time if you make any sort of protected disclosure. But what has happened to me since I put this application in is I put in a freedom of information request to the Irish government, and they have a very good setup with designated persons in each department. So there's some sort of oversight of the government department who can find out the answers, the answers to the questions you want to ask. So that has developed. They actually wrote to me from the Protected Disclosures Department. So I thought, gosh, this is actually good. And I asked that whatever information they found out is not only sent to me, but is also sent to the Public Prosecution's Office, so that it's not just swept back under the carpet over and over again. So it's been very exciting. It's not now just one. It's not just one freedom of information request now. It's actually gone up to 90 because I thought I'd better just spell out what the questions are. This is my speciality. I think I have to accept is asking good questions. Why is this happening? What did you? How did you prepare? I mean, I've gone through the process of public procurement of a water company actually in Ireland, and the due diligence was extensive. Operational due diligence, financial due diligence, and yet all these things, this huge, massive takeover bid of all public funds, all literally our entire freedom to live or work or all human endeavor and even ability to reproduce and to be in touch with each other, stay connected with each other, and look after our homes and our environment have all been absolutely hijacked by a group of people with no due diligence behind them. So so it's exciting, and I think they actually rang me from the Protected Disclosures Office and said, and I think they wanted to put me off. And they were like, "Oh, could you, if you want to appeal, it's not going to be this department." And I was like, "Oh, I'm definitely not going to appeal. I'm only too grateful that this is the first time I've ever had a response where people want to hear this critical information and potentially save the day." So I'm certainly not appealing anything. I'm just like, thank you so much. And I think at that point he thought, well, we better just. He didn't want to be suddenly put in with every other person who had not been not actually wanted to even look at the situation and recognise that it could make all the difference. It could make all the difference if we show that a misconduct in public office. It would make all the difference if we could show fraud in public procurement. And all these things are, there's oceans of information, and we just need it heard and enforced, and then we can start with a clean sheet, putting men and women, unincorporated men and women, back in charge of decision making, which is obviously what needs to happen. Nobody wants the government. Nobody wants that with those shadow directors or that international government by some sort of market, some pharmaceutical market. Who wants to be managed by that with the kind of military overtone of enforcement, and banking debt? That all those things are completely fraudulently constructed. And so, it's to just start to familiarize ourselves with that so that we're not quite so easy to walk over and can maybe correct our jurisdiction. So, where else? Oh, yeah, I was talking about the Atomic Energy Agency as being part of the health regulations, and it's actually very important that nuclear weapons are not controlled by AI. No part of them. No, not these submarines. Not the which have to sail 365 days a year, so they're a moving target. I mean, I don't know if people even realise, but one AI search uses the equivalent energy of 8 hours of a microwave. You think most things in the microwave take about 2 minutes maximum. And of course, AI has recently been instructing one young man, possibly more, to kill themselves if that's what they want to do, and maybe we can help with that, absolutely off the Richter scale. But most importantly, most critically, is that AI has been programmed with a military protocol of retaliation. And the one time there was a very real threat, it was actually a mistake. But the early warning center in Russia, one man on duty, and you remember 4-minute warning. So he couldn't just phone a friend. They couldn't have a meeting about it, phone the president, anything like that. Run any tests to check what the real situation was. If that had been an AI decision, they would have, because it's military protocol, to retaliate, to send off their share of bombs back again. But he was famous, and anyway, it's in this reference which I will share. He said, I'm going to make my judgment call, old-fashioned judgment call, is I'm not going to retaliate. And an hour or so later, or probably even quicker than that, because obviously there's a 4-minute warning, nothing happened. And it found out it was a satellite malfunction that had said that this was happening. And so we need people in charge. I mean, it seems so obvious. We don't need corporations in charge. We don't need incorporated governments in charge, or their shadow directors. And we certainly don't need AI in charge. It hasn't got anything that we've got. It hasn't got. I've never done an AI search, and I never bloody well will. It's just, I feel groomed, actually, when I read anything that has smacks of it, to be honest. So in another article, The WHO claims that nuclear submarines are central to their logistics supply. I suppose if they're dropping off the experimental gene therapies, no one is going to send them packing, however much damage they did the last time. 17 million dead from COVID vaccine injuries, I gather. They stopped the rollout of the swine flu universal vaccine after 20 died, but that was 10 years ago and life held value back then. Please explore the risks that Indonesia may lose control of their nuclear resources. According to BRIN's Awaludin, Indonesia has uranium reserves of 90,000 tonnes and thorium reserves of around 140,000 tonnes, enough to power 10 MWE nuclear for 30 years. Both the UN Sustainability Goals and health treaties require that member states report their resources, which means that the WHO can take control of them on climate action or health emergency grounds declared by themselves. So the next one, that was just one reference. The next reference was where did I get to? That was 9, 10. Vote no way to the UN bill tomorrow that seeks to take away the jurisdiction of men and women in law. We had our own version of that in Ireland as well. But on the 5th of April 2024, the UN discussed and decided that calling yourself a biological man or woman was a crime against humanity. Now, that might seem absurd or a bit woke, about or against some sort of religious view or something like that, or too much pro the LGBTQ thing or whatever it might sound like. But men and women, man and woman are legal, lawful terms. They refer to our jurisdiction. If you see yourself as a biological man or woman, that is your jurisdiction. It goes God, men and women, governments, corporations, citizens. So if you don't, and you're only allowed to call yourself a citizen or some other diminutive, you are putting yourself below all those other jurisdictions. So what did I say about it? Man and women are above public servants, governments, and most certainly above corporations in our constitutions and in law. However, the UN want to criminalise the use of the biological definition of gender, which will make it very difficult to establish our jurisdiction as men and women. They are doing it on the pretext of respect for LGBT rights. If the bill goes through, the original definition of male-female as a binary concept will be included as a crime against humanity. That's all my references, and now I'm down to the defendants that I actually named in it.